It's Game Hydro with another video about Dragon Traveler. I am going to make a tier list of the top luminaries in the entire game. Now, we got a lot of different ranks of luminaries. We got SSR, EX, SSR plus, uh, regular SSRs, SRs, etc. So, for the purposes of things, I'm going to focus them on the SSR EX, SSR plus, and SSRs. I'll have another video coming with the blue collar heroes, the SRs. I call them the blue collar heroes because they are pretty easy to get in normal play. But there are different ways to figure out who is, the top ones in the game. Obviously, besides reading all the different websites that copy and paste the same descriptions that they probably jacked from Reddit. So off we go. We're going to start with an SSR EX over here, the Goddess of Wisdom, Athena. Now, taking a look at the base stats, uh, typically they generally appear pretty close to each other, at least from when you're looking at them on this screen. But these are the base stats, which means that they level up. They increase proportionately when you level up, which can eventually lead to a gargantuan advantage. So there's not really much in the way of like tanks, glass cannons here, DPS type. Well, there are DPS types, but it's more the skills that determine that. So you're going to hit the magnifying glass to check out the skills. Check out Goddess of Wisdom, Athena. So battle resolve. Each attack deals additional physical damage equal to 12% of her own lost hit points. For each enemy hit, recover 6% of lost hit points. So, lifesteal. Lifesteal is good stuff. While in Grace, effective battle resolve increased by 30%. When possessing both morale and fervor, we enter the Grace status and some more additions down here. And then looking at the skills, you got Overdrive, sacrifices 40% of current hit point to gain a shield equal to 60% of max hit point for 8 seconds. Slams the ground at target location, inflicting taunt on enemies with within a large circular area for 8 seconds, and dealing physical damage equal to 200% of attack. So that's an interesting one. One that sacrifices her own hit points, but then life steals also. Uh, I'm kind of don't think I've seen something like that before. Aegis of Echoes gains fervor, throws a shield at a single target that ricochets, bouncing up to 5 times before returning to self. Each bounce deals physical damage equal to 75% of attack. Each enemy can only be hit once. So if you're fighting against 3 enemies at a time, you're not going to have bounces off of multiple enemies in one shot. Lifelink, when an allied luminary's hit point fall below 30%, forms a lifelink with them, increasing the target's damage reduction by 20% and redirecting 60% of their damage taken by the target to herself. This lasts for 8 seconds. This effect can trigger only once on each luminary, so it can't happen multiple times per battle. That's kind of a big limiter there. Counter Helix. When taking damage, 25% chance to deal physical damage equal to 140% to enemies within a large circular area, and that can trigger once every 2 seconds at most. Gains Rage. When Rage is at limit, enters Wild, which triggers a chance increase to 35, and the skill has no cooldown for the duration. All right, so Athena, Goddess of Wisdom, we got pretty high amount of damage here, but what we have especially got is Lifesteal. We got a skill that trades her hit points for a shield worth more than her hit points on a temporary basis, and she protects other. She acts as a tank, protecting other team members. That is a highly valuable one to have in your party, so I'm going to give her S tier. Between all that, she's pretty killer. Next, SSR Plus, Judge of the Underworld, Anubis. Now, comparing the base stats of the two, Anubis actually has higher hit points, but slightly lower defense. Lower physical defense, lower magic defense. Attack is exactly the same, though. Now, I'm not giving the massive amount of credence to stats, I guess, because each character is so upgradable with star ups and upgrades that you can have one with the lowest base stats end up being the most powerful one in your party. It's really all due to luck of the draw. But Anubis, more of a higher hit points, higher attack, lower defense. So, whenever an ally is defeated, gains a stack of death rattle, consumes 3 out of 7 to gain immunity to the first and second instance of fatal damage received, recovering 50% of max hit points. Okay, self-reviving. That's an extremely strong skill. Plus, you got this match down here. Whenever gaining Death Rattle, he deals magic damage equal to 7% of max hit point to enemies within a large circular area. After casting, increases the defenses by 25% for 10 seconds. During this time, whenever gaining Death Rattle, 50% chance to gain an additional stack of Death Rattle. So, to enemies within a large... So, that's area damage. It's not necessarily... 7% of max hit points. That's actually better than I thought. All right. Sand shield equal to 13% of max hit points and an equal shield to the ally with the lowest hit points. So SSR pluses, I'm assuming that most of them are probably going to have skills that let them act as shields to your weaker party members, because honestly, you're not going to have all the SSR pluses and all the SSR EXs in your party unless you're a whale. Or unless you play for a long time. Might of the Dunes increases hit points by 13%, hit point increase by 16% each time Descending Judgment is cast, stacks up to 5 times. So Descending Judgment is the first skill on the list here. So each time it's cast, hit points increase. Sands of Solace grants all allied ranged luminaries 3 scales. Each scale increases damage reduction by 12.5%. This skill only activates one time at the start of the battle. All right, so this is another good tank. Another good tank here, primarily not only as a tank, but the self-healing is really good. The self-reviving in order to not die at the end of the battle. That one is super valuable because when you come to a super tough battle, sometimes it's just that one character that makes the difference between losing it and winning it. So I'm giving this dude an S- because there's a little bit less overall attack compared to some of the others, but I'm still pretty impressed with this guy. Fallen Warborn Goddess, Helveil, whatever. Same stats as Anubis, like exactly the same. And skill-wise, increases crit resist of everybody by 180. After taking non-critical damage, has a 15% chance to restore 2% of max hit points. When an ally is defeated, gains 1 stack of Death Rattle. Each stack of Death Rattle causes crit resist to increase by an additional 20%. Grace status causes healing, etc., etc. Summons a shield formation for 5 seconds, dealing physical damage equal to 280% of attack power to enemies within a huge circular area. While the shield formation is active, gains immunity to control effects and damage reduction is increased by 100%, etc. So that provides a lot of defense and a lot of attack. Absorbs the souls of enemies within a medium cone-shaped area. For each target that is affected, gains a shield equal to 9% of max hit points for 6 seconds. So that shield actually does not last all that long, in my opinion. 6 seconds? I mean, yeah, there's going to be a few attacks, but, you know. In battle, increases hit points by 10%. If self-generated shield is not broken, deals physical damage equal to 15% of max hit points to enemies in a large circular area and inflicts crit down. Special skill. Just spins around and smashes the ground, dealing physical damage equal to 140% of attack to enemies within a large circular area and gaining fervor. So there's a good amount of area damage here, but the tankiness is not necessarily as effective. Crit resist, I'll be honest, is not one of my one of the skills I usually find more important. But due to being SSR plus, I got to give her an A tier still. Now, if you are not following along with a pen and paper with the tiers, you should be. I don't have the software available on hand to make a tier list, and I'm not even at home right now. So if you want an easier way to track this, a pen and paper would be great, or type it on your computer, whatever you want to do. All right. So we got a few more SSRs in the Guardians area. Now we're going to go with Drasill, the Ancient Tree Guardian. As you can see, the defense is actually very high, but the attack is a little higher, but the hit points are fairly low. So we're going to go for the skills here. Gains rage when hit points decrease. Rage at the limit, enters wild, instantly recovering 26% of lost hit points, then recovering 3% of lost hit points per second. All right, so that is even though the hit points are low to begin with, that's pretty good healing ability. Plus boosting magic defense and things of this nature. Grants a shield equal to 19% of max hit points to all allies, lasts 8 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 180% of attack to enemies within a large circular area, plus recovers 36% of lost hit points. Root juice. Allied luminaries in the wild status with a shield regenerate hit points equal to 2% per second. So that's a passive skill. While in wild status, after taking damage, deals magic damage equal to 3% of max hit points to the attacker. All right, so despite the low max hit points, I would say that this guy is unusually strong at being leveled up higher than the rest of the party, because there's not only some very high damage and high defense, but good shielding techniques. This dude is a good candidate to be essentially a one character run winner. So I'm going S- with this guy. Slime King Gudong. Same stats as Anubis, actually, despite the lower rarity. Upon death, summons 3 small slimes that inherit 20% of attack, 20% of hit points, and 100% of all other stats. They last 20 seconds. Cheap. The same name as the fish dude from Mario. Deals physical damage to a single target that is equal to 320% of attack and inflicts stun. Lasts 5 seconds. That's good. That's good attack power. Spawns a small slime every 16 seconds up to a maximum of 3, summoned by this skill at a time. Slime Shield. Upon defeat, leaves behind a puddle of slime goo that lasts for 5 seconds. Enemy units standing on slime goo have their movement speed reduced by 80 and attack speed reduced by 40. That's pretty good, actually. Gurgles, restoring 20% of max hit points. So, I wouldn't say any of those skills are super impressing me, but they're all pretty good. The single target attack skill, that's high hit points, but again, that's a single target. Healing is good, but not as good as some of the other healing skills I've seen around. The generating small slimes, that one sounds good in theory, but 20% of attack and hit points will get them killed pretty quickly. Regardless, though, Slime King's a pretty good one overall to have in the party. We're going to go A- tier. Now, Ancient Golem. Oh, I forgot to look at the stats of this cat. 8.8, 110, good physical defense, high magic defense, very high. The higher the Ancient Golem's hit point percentage, the larger it grows, the higher the physical defense becomes. However, its attack speed will also decrease. So the more hit points it has, the slower it attacks. The less hit points it has, the smaller it is, and the faster it attacks. Um, Physical damage and attack speed increase and decrease inversely to one another, up to 45%. When possessing both morale and fervor, enters grace status, ignores hit points percentage, and always maintains maximum size at that point. Leaps into the air and strikes down at the earth, dealing physical damage equal to 28% of max hit points to enemies within a large circular area. Pretty good. Stuns for 3 seconds. Range increases with size. Hurls a stone at a random allied luminary, granting fervor to allied units within a medium circular area around the target. The range increases with the size of the caster. Gains a shield equal to 12% and lasts for 8 seconds to whenever it casts a skill. When taking damage, 8% chance to gain fervor. Alright, so to be quite honest, I'm not in love with the fact that it generally becomes less useful as it loses hit points, because most of the tough battles that you fight come down to the last 5 seconds to 10 seconds of the battle, and you're going to need your characters to be as effective as they can be in that time. So I'm going to give this dude B+ tier. King of Beasts, Herman. So Herman has high attack, high physical defense, and low hit points. Alright, skill-wise, each time an ally releases Overdrive, gains a stack of Awakening. After releasing a skill, if there's at least 3 stacks of Awakening, it consumes 3 to unleash 3 Spirit Flames. During the duration of Spirit Flames, it deals 80% of attack as physical damage every 2 seconds, and that lasts for 8 seconds. So that's a total of 640% of range damage in a medium circular area, as well as 8% of max hit points to self per second, totaling 64% max hit points. Dear God, that's powerful. I'm impressed with that one. Savage Uproar. Select a single target and roar at them for 450% of attack. And then area damage equal to 150% plus speed down, plus triggers punishment, which causes 3 seconds of stun to a single target. Throws 2 axes forward and then recalls them. Each axe deals physical damage equal to 150 to enemy units until it passes through, and only hits the same target once. Applies healing down to enemy units hit by both axes. So you tap healing down, it's a debuff effect. Reduces healing, lasts 8 seconds. And then tap any of these skills to see what they do. Awakening, special arcane wisdom faction status lasts to the end of battle. Increases own damage reduction by 16% when taking non-overdrive damage. And then finally, leaps into the air, slams down on a single target, dealing physical damage equal to 230%, gaining a shield equal to 15% of max hit points, lasts for 6 seconds. Alright, so I like that the area damage happens before the shield. This character got a lot of damage going. The hit points are low, but again, this is a good candidate to, over level a little bit in order to match the hit points up with your more powerful characters. And so with all the very high attack, very high defense, that kind of mitigates the hit points a bit. So with that, I am going to give her an S-. All right. Moving down here, we got the Wishing Genie Scheherazade. Same stats as that last one I just did. So all skill effects have a 40% chance to activate twice. By the way, she's SSR+. When healing under the Grace status, increases healing by 30%, etc. Wish granted heals all allies for 23% of the caster's max hit points, with a 15% chance to grant morale and fervor. Each time an overdrive is unleashed, gains 1 stack of awakening. When using this, consumes 4 stacks to guarantee wish fulfillment. Heals the allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 17%. Increases damage reduction by 15% for each stack of awakening. Reduces the energy cost of the next overdrive unleashed by this unit and the allied luminary with the highest current overdrive energy cost by 1. All right, so we got our first true healer here. And not only is she a true healer, but she's got super high defense and high attack power. I'm giving her S tier. Scheherazade, excellent choice. All right, moving on. We got the Fairy Queen Titania. Oh, wait, forgot the stats. Slightly lower attack, higher hit points, high defense, and high magic defense. So I'm smelling a tank here. Let's look at the skills. When casting a skill to heal an ally, 25% chance to dispel 1 debuff, and additionally heal allies within a medium circle for 9% of max hit points. Guaranteed to trigger when the target is in the wild status. So I don't love that it's only a 25% chance at all times, but I am good with the wild status bit. Unleashes blessed power, healing all allied luminaries and worms for 24% of max hit points. Heals the allied luminary or worm with the lowest hit points for 18% of the caster's max hit points. That's pretty good. Radiance of Hope. Magic defense up each time Redemptions is triggered and increases own healing effects by 10% for 8 seconds. Meteor Fall deals magic damage equal to 120% of attack to the target and enemies within a medium circular area. When hitting enemies affected with an elemental debuff, heals luminary or worm with the lowest hit point for 12% of the caster's max hit points. All right, so Titania, super high defense and an even more hardcore pure healer than Scheherazade, who is also more of an attacker type. And a pure healer can really make a difference in your party. I'm giving her S tier also. Let's go next to Holyblade Bishop. She has higher hit points, lower attack, medium physical defense, high magic defense, and let's take a look at the skills. Every 10 seconds grants Sanctuary to 1 random allied luminary. Whenever Sanctuary is granted to an allied luminary, it heals them for 11% of the caster's max hit points. Can trigger on the same target a maximum of 1 time every 3 seconds. Grants Sanctuary to allies within a massive circular area that lasts 6 seconds. And Sanctuary grants immunity to stat debuffs and elemental debuffs for 6 seconds while active. Alright. So there's a bit of healing, but primarily it's buffs here. Plus attack boost by 30% for 8 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 160 to enemies in a straight line and grants Sanctuary to the allied luminary with the highest attack. This skill can trigger the punish effect. When punishment is triggered, damage increases by 40%, and each time 1 random allied luminary grants Sanctuary. Hit points increase by 8. Whenever ally triggers punishment, they gain Sanctuary. Summons a holy shield next to the allied luminary with the lowest hit point percentage. Every 3 seconds, it heals allies in a large circular area for 5.5%. This appears after triggering 3 times. When a holy shield is summoned, it grants the target luminary fervor. Alright, so Ophelia, not really feeling her skills as much as some of the others. Buffs and debuffs are useful, yes, but when you compare them to straight healers and tanks, typically they're the ones I tend to find less important. So with that in mind, I'm giving her a B+. Alright, next, Arcane Lord, Atanith. Super high attack, low hit points, low defense. So we got a glass cannon here, possibly. Let's look at the skills. Increases overdrive energy cost to the nearest enemy luminary by 1 and reduces their magic defense by 20%. This effect is dispelled after she is defeated. Increases energy cost to the next overdrive. What? Okay. I guess they do kind of similar things, but they can kind of play over each other too. So this also increases energy cost of the next overdrive unleashed by any enemy luminary by 1 and deals magic damage equal to 120 to all enemies. So this is a rare and unusual skill, is making it harder for enemies to use their overdrive skills. That actually can work out pretty well in your favor. Magic damage to a single target to equal to 210, inflicting silence for 3 seconds, which means cannot cast active skills. Each time an ally unleashes overdrive, gains 1 stack of awakening. Each stack restores 6% of max hit points to self and the allied luminary with the lowest. When on the battlefield, allies gain additional 16% lifesteal when attacking targets in the cursed domain. I do like the reduction of enemy use of overdrive and making it harder for enemies to trigger overdrive, but that does not an S tier character make. I'm going to go B plus for this one because that's a little bit niche. Next up, we got Caligula, the Iron Gut Tyrant. High defense, high magic defense, medium attack, medium hit points. Let's check out those skills. When casting healing effects, heals for an additional 5% of the target's lost hit points. Gains Death Rattle whenever an ally is defeated. Healing increased by 2% for each stack. Alright, so I do like that. I already like that he becomes more effective as allies start to die. Summons a magic circle, granting allies within a large circular area adrenaline, which increases attack by 20%, and healing them for 700 plus 18% of the caster's max hit points. Heals targets in wild status for an additional 50%. That's a lot. Grants a shield equal to 21% to the allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 6 seconds. Pretty good. When each allied luminary first enters wild, it's immediately cast on them. Increases damage reduction by 30% when attacked by melee characters. Not bad, actually. Summons 1 totem. The totem heals the 2 allies with the lowest hit point percentage for 7% of the caster's max hit points every 2.5 seconds. The totem inherits 50% of the caster's hit points and is destroyed after 3 heals. So, having a tough time with this one because the main skills are not super impressive, but the overdrive is really good. I'm going to give him an A minus. Next up, Hero Mentor. Chiron, whatever. High hit points, high magic defense. Looking at the skills. At the start of battle, grant the allied luminary with the highest attack a light orb. Each time a luminary launches a skill or basic attack, the orb fires a magic arrow, dealing magic damage equal to 90% of the luminary's attack. It disappears when the caster is defeated. So the orb sticks around the entire time and essentially doubles the attack power of the highest attacker. Not bad. After selecting an ally target, deducts 30% of current hit points to grant them morale. Increases attack and damage reduction by 15%. That's bizarre. And heals the target and all allies within a large circular area for 600 plus 24%. Alright, so that's not bad. Channels for 5 seconds to heal the allied luminary with the lowest hit point for 35% of max hit point. Alright, I had a brief phone interruption there. I believe we left off on Chiron's last skill, which is increases her own healing effects by 20%, increases healing dealt to battle bond targets by an additional 20%. Combined, let's see. Heals the lowest allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 35% of caster's max. It's select an allied target. Deducts to grant them morale. The deduction thing is weird, but overall, I think her skills are pretty good, and uh, the thing I like the most is this thing where she clones the attack power of the most powerful attacker. So I am going to give her an A plus tier, mostly based on that and due to the sheer strength of some of these healing things. All right, moving down to this category, we got Hades. So Hades has low hit points, high attack, super high physical defense, good magic defense. Skill wise, attacks are not affected by attack speed, cannot gain awakening. Damage amplification increased by 20 for every 4 stacks of awakening gained by others. Damage amplification increased by an additional 10, and Soul Chase evolves once. Stacks up to 4 times. Alright, so a very strong attacker already. Creates 1 clone at the current location. Up to 3 can exist at the same time. Blinks to the front of the single target, dealing physical damage equal to 740% and knocking them down. Clones inherit 40% of attack, cannot be targeted, and do not move on their own. If enemies are nearby, they perform basic attacks every 4.5 seconds. Each time caster uses overdrive, clone moves to the nearest enemy and launches a basic attack. Alright, so clones have low-ish attack power, but are still pretty strong, and they permeate the field and target other enemies. Creates a clone at the current location. Up to 3 at the same time. Oh, never mind. Enhances basic attacks. Each evolution adds an additional instance of damage, up to 4 instances. Each instance deals physical damage to a single target equal to 160% of attack. 4th instance deals double damage. Damage increases based on target's lost hit points percentage. For every 1% of hit points lost, damage amplification increases by 0.4%. Whenever allies are defeated, gain 1 stack of death rattle. For each stack, attack increases by 1. Blah, 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 blah. Long words. Clone on the battlefield recovers 25% of max hit point for each clone absorbed. So she absorbs her own clones and then recovers hit points. Alright, so not only you got self-healing there, but you got the ability, you got unparalleled so far attack abilities. Super, super strong attacker, easily the best one we've seen so far. That is an S tier. Now, don't count on her for tanking or healing. She is straight attack and thus is best paired with tanks and healers. Taichi Master. You would think that a Taichi Panda type character would have stronger, a lot more hit points, but no, but he does have good defense and magic defense. Looking at the skills, increases attack speed and crit, 5-second taunt effect at the start of battle, which forces a target to attack themselves and prevents them from using active skills. Alright. Darts in front of a single target, applying 5-second taunt and dealing physical damage equal to 800%. That sounds like a really good skill on bosses. Begins charging power, intercepting basic range attacks for 2 seconds within a medium circular area. Deals physical damage equal to 295 with enemies in a medium circular area. Fluidity consumes 5% of current hit points for each basic attack and steal 2% of the target's attack for 6 seconds. Gains rage when hit points decrease. When rage is at the limit, enters wild status. Lifesteal increases by 15% and basic attacks are replaced with 5 flowing fist moves that no longer consume hit points. Each move deals physical damage equal to 100%. Alright, so we got some moves with good attack power here, and attack speed and crit increasing is pretty good. The vacillating back and forth between consuming his own health and doing lifesteal is strange. I'm giving Taichi Master a B. Alright, White Tiger, 4 Saints, SSR+. Now, the stats don't show here because I have her leveled up to an insane level, so you can't see the base stats. But you can kind of tell what they were originally. Um, Pretty well balanced between attack, hit points, and defense, honestly. So, looking at the skills, no critical hits. Every third basic attack deals 230% to the target and enemies in a medium cone-shaped area behind them. Pretty good. Sacrifices 30% of current hit points to unleash a flurry of strikes on a single target for 910% of attack. The final blow deals 120% to enemies in a large circular area. Lifesteal increases by an additional 50% for the skill's duration. Leaps behind the target to deal physical damage equal to 320 in a cone-shaped area. Gains rage when hit points decrease. Attack increases by 10 when rage is at the limit, etc. AoE damage of Kickstorm. All attacks ignore 15% of the target's physical defense. While not affiliated with afflicted with a debuff, the effect is doubled. So, White Tiger is pretty much a straight-on attacker. Possibly an even bigger straight-on attacker than Hades. I would say not quite to the same tier as Hades, but still very, very good. Very effective. I'm giving her A tier. Next up, we got World Serpent Jormungandr. Her HP and magic defense are pretty high. Physical defense decent. Attack meh. Only food and power are worth pursuing. Every 9 seconds deals physical damage to the current target equal to 50% of attack, 35% to the target's lost hit points, not exceeding 350. While in gray status, this skill's damage increases to 50% of attack, 70% of lost hit points. Alright, so the less damage that the more damage already taken by the target, the more damage she deals. So this one would be excellent against boss types, as well as to finish off tanks and tougher enemies. Launches them into the air, deals physical damage equal to 410, then 240 to enemies in a large circular area, 2 times the damage of Ravaging Maw to selected target. Healing down, reduces healing received by 50% on the enemies. So the physical damage so far is not as high as some others, but the ability to increase attack power, that's pretty good physical damage actually. 320% of attack and inflicting defense down. The best part here to me is the ability to do more damage to enemies that have already been damaged. Great against tanks, great against bosses. However, a little bit niche, a little bit too niche to go S tier on. I'm going A tier with this one, maybe A minus. Next up, we got the Death Knight Mordred. Super high hit points, low everything else. So let's see how this one turns out. Launches a water bomb at the farthest enemy luminary, dealing 10% of damage, own attack to enemies. Only 10%? And applies chill, which reduces healing effects by 15% for 10 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 660 in a straight line and grants a stack of death rattle. Becomes untargetable when casting, and then automatically attacks the nearest enemy unit at the end. 510% on that one. Stack of death rattle. Increases damage dealt by 33 against unbuffed enemies, 33%. Spins the scythe to deal magic damage equal to 280 to enemies in a large circular area. Against elemental debuffs, lifesteal up to 75. Alright, so low attack power to begin with, but high attack skills. So they kind of even out a little bit, but nothing there is really blowing my skirt up, so I'm going to give her a B+ tier. Lancelot, Knight of the Lake. So this dude has very high magic defense, good-ish hit points, decent hit points. Not much attack power. The farther the total distance moved, the higher the damage amplification becomes, up to 40%. Not bad. Gains morale, charges at a single target, dealing damage 110% to enemies along the way, and then 220 to enemies in a medium circular area around the target. I've seen better. Unleashes a flurry of consecutive thrusts, dealing 225 in total in a medium cone-shaped area. Increase crit by 350. In Grace, each critical hit reduces cooldown of Solar Steed by 1 second. Upon entering the Grace status, instantly dispels all debuffs from self and reduces the cooldown of Solar Steed by 14 seconds.